All right.
Fun stuff.
Oh, man, we never get to do that when we're here.
Just some blues jamming, right?
I know, like just plug some stuff in and let it rip. You know, man. But it's
so
great to
fun.
play with you. We never get to do that.
I know.
Ever.
That's great. It's probably the first time
cool.
we've ever done them.
I think it might be.
That kind of a
and
thing.
I've known you for a long time.
Yeah. How about that? Well, thanks for joining us today. I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. Corey Congilio's here. Great to see you, man.
Damn, great to see you, man. It's always a good time when we're here.
Yeah, and we're talking about blues. We're talking about jamming and that whole thing, right?
Exactly. And more importantly, that discussion we had about blues jams and like what, beginners or intermediates experience when
Because you just hosted one, right?
I did. I got called out of the blue to host this blues jam in this place I've kind of always wanted to play in Nashville. It's this great little barbecue joint north of town called Papa T's.
Nice.
And I was like, you know what? I'm jumping in. I'm going to know my blues standards and help direct the band a little bit. And they got a list and the sign-ups and all that goes with it. And it was really fun to observe these people like making music with each other that never played together before.
Right.
But I observed a lot of things, good and maybe not bad, but that could be improved upon.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of students out there in the world that are in that stage where they want to come and do a blues jam. And I was like, man, I want to talk to Mitch about this and see what he says.
Right. Blues jam is such a great way to get experience on stage, to try what you're practicing. Get on stage in a lower pressure kind of an environment and just experiment a little bit, but also just have fun and really make music with other people.
Exactly. And that's the thing. You got to take what you've been doing in the practice room and use it with other people because it's a whole different world.
Yep.
And when it happens, I don't know about everybody else, but to me, it was always like a shot of adrenaline in the best way,
Right.
But, there's things that you want to be mindful of. And we were talking about, the big one was etiquette,
right.
And watching your volume, not trying to upstage anyone. I always say you're playing for the name on the front of the jersey, not the one on the back. You know what I mean? It's like you're a team. You're there trying to make music with these people you've never played with before. So you really have to be mindful, considerate, not be too loud.
It's the volume thing is certainly, and just listening to the other players and giving them their chance. Even if you're taking your solo, everybody else is still playing.
Exactly.
And it's all, like you said, a team kind of a thing, but it's also one of the things that I've noticed at blues jams that can turn me off as a listener is when somebody just goes too long.
Yep.
Say what you're going to say and take your time.
Yeah.
But man, everybody gets a chance to play, and you want to be mindful of that.
Yeah, and the cool thing was about that is that everybody at that jam was really mindful of just taking a couple choruses of solos. And I was hosting, so I was like, go, play more. And they were like, really? And the keyboard player was like, you sure? I'm like, rip, man, go for it.
Yeah.
And we just had a blast.
Yeah.
But the thing that I noticed was that a lot of people, like let's say you're playing a 12-bar E shuffle like we were doing, and a lot of people were playing, the classic, all well and good, absolutely nothing wrong with it.
Exactly what I was doing.
Exactly what you're doing. But if two of us start to do that at the same time, that can be where the trouble starts. So if we were to play the same thing, this is what it would sound like. 2, 3, 4. It's like a weird double-tracked guitar. And you could even go up here, 3, 4. But there needs to be more interplay and more, interesting rhythm happening and subdivisions of the rhythm. So I might do something like this if he's playing that. So 2, 3, 4. So a lot of that stuff was all just E7 chord inversions. So I might be playing, a classic E7 like that, but I might take those 3 notes and just kind of comp. And notice how that rhythm is very 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And I might go up, 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 bap, bap, almost like a horn section. And you can do that on any E7 chord you know. And what I also think about too is the register. If you're here, I want to be away from you, and vice versa. If you're, maybe it's a Chuck Berry song, I can still go.
Yeah, but it's not gonna.
Yeah. Now we're harmonious, more so. I mean, and that is one of the biggest things that I see at Blues Jam is people stepping on each other in a same register a lot of times.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
You can also, that's an opportunity for you as the rhythm player to feed the soloist a little bit by maybe making it a 9th chord.
Yeah.
Or adding an extension here and there just to color things up just a little bit, because it's very basic, just doing the root 5 to the 6,
That's right.
you know,
That's
kind
right.
of thing. And so bringing in a little extra color there, whether it's just a 9th chord or a sharp 9 if you're on the 5 or whatever it might be, can open some things up for the soloist, because they should be listening to what you're playing as a rhythm player, and you're listening to them. And it can lead the jam. The fun thing about a jam is when it evolves. And you're not just mechanically doing that, but you're participating and you're interacting.
Exactly. Yeah, and you're looking for the holes in the music. You're looking for the spots where everyone else isn't playing. Because the bass player is probably going very downbeat 8th note oriented. So there's all these spots in there for you to put some other stuff in. I mean, you could even go... You can arpeggiate a chord. There's a lot of different things that you can do, for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Sounds like someone who's been there before.
We have done this before. It's also, speaking of the bass player, you know, as guitar players, we tend to want to play the big chords or whatever, but you notice when I went to the 5 and the 4, actually what I played was the half diminished off the 3, which with the 7th chord, that basically what I'm playing is the top 4 notes from a 9th chord.
Right.
With no root, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's a chance for more color options as a accompanist, if you will, and also bringing that color. You know, we can add that on top too.
I love when you did that. Yeah,
you know, that
dresses
just,
it up.
It's something then for you to play against as a soloist, to work against that.
Yeah, and lots of times the soloist will kind of start to pick up on that too. You know, and they'll maybe go up higher, be more inspired to play something even more fun and interesting too.
Right.
But we should talk about soloists too, because one of the things I see at the Blues Jam is hesitation. The nerves get to you, and it's totally understandable. I still get nervous on things all the time. But I think the thing that we were talking about was confidence. You know, so if we're playing a 12-bar blues and you only know E minor pentatonic, then live in it. You know, really. So maybe let's try to do that again. I want to throw my pedal on here just to get a little sustain.
I'll bring mine back a little bit.
All right, we'll have some fun. Why not? So let's just play a 12-bar any way you like. Right. And I'm gonna.
Let's just stick with the shuffle.
Let's do that.
All right.
1, 2, 3, 4. So that was, most of it I lived down in this minor pentatonic area here. And I was really just sticking to there and working it over and over again. And I always think about this, if it was good enough for Albert King, it's good enough for me. And he, you know, just live in one area and really work that.
Yeah.
That's going to translate so well to your audience, because I hear a lot of people try to do the stuff they practiced at home on the jam session.
Which you should do.
It's
a place to try things and experiment, but it's going to give you a lot more confidence if you stay at home base.
Yeah, and you're probably only going to get to play 1 or 2 songs anyway. So come with the big guns, you know. And if you have rock licks in your bag and you feel good about it, let it rip, you know.
Yeah.
But be weary of like trying things out too much. You want to really play for the song and make a statement. And that's what I see people practicing at the jam. Perform a little bit. Really dig in.
Yeah.
I think that's what we want to do.
You'll feel better about it. You'll be more confident.
Yeah.
It's going to come across strong. But actually, you touched on something there as well, and that's the songs. So when you go to a blues jam, do you bring a song or two in your back pocket that you know, or how do you approach that?
I'm glad you brought that up, because here's what can happen at a blues jam is you'll say, okay, you're going to play. What do you want to do? I don't know. Whatever. You know what I mean? No, it can't be whatever, because you don't know every song. I don't know every song.
Right.
Have 2, 3, 4, 5 in your bag that you know, and if the band already played 3 of them, well, then you're on your other 2, you know. And it could be Sweet Home Chicago, it could be Rock Me Baby, it could be, you know, I'm Tore Down, I'm, you know, Born Under a Bad Sign. Like there's 3 right off the top of my head. You know, have those ready to go. And lean on them as the ones that you're going to present to the band. Yeah,
and try and make sure they're songs that people are going to know. It's great to pull some obscure blues song that you know from someone, but if everybody else on the bandstand doesn't know it, that's kind of a problem at that point.
And it was interesting because we had a singer come up, and she brought 3 songs. 2 of them I'd never heard of before, but she goes, well, what about that Georgia Satellite song, Hands to Yourself? And I was like, "Hey, boys, let's do it." And I played right along, and I helped her through it. And she was like, "Oh my God, that was so fun." And everybody just had a great time. And, you know, I've been playing music my whole life, touring, sessions, all that kind of stuff. And I had so much darn fun helping everybody out at that blues jam and putting the bands together and running the clipboard. It was my first experience, and everybody just had a great time, and that's what it should be about. So bring songs you know that you feel confident about, because the blues jammers are going to remember that. They're like, "Oh yeah, she knows that song. Get her up here."
Right.
And then you become a favorite.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit about, though, when you come up on stage and you come up to play your songs, but a lot of times somebody else will call a song, or somebody else will come up. You maybe get a keyboard player and you come up at the same time. They call a song, you don't know it.
Right.
So the first thing I do in that situation is I don't play.
Yeah.
You know, let the band start, hear what the keyboard player's doing. Is it a shuffle? Is it something where you just want to add sustained chords in there? Is it something where you do want to do more, act like a horn section and do stabs and things? But you need to listen and hear what everybody else is doing to find those holes that you can drop into, especially if you don't know the song.
Man, that's good advice, and that's not even anything we pre-planned. He just brought it up.
Yeah, well.
But that actually is a really good point, because that happened on this blues jam where the keyboard player launched into this Joe Cocker tune, and I was playing guitar, another guy was playing guitar, and he didn't know it. And I was picking it out by ear, but I was just like, lay out, verse and a chorus goes around. The next verse and a chorus is probably going to be the same. And I started going like this to him and just showing him the chords. When he picked those chords, I found other versions of it. And by the second chorus, we were on our way. Solo came, he tore it up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And nobody's going to know.
Nobody's going to know, and it's all about helping each other through that moment.
When in doubt, lay out. That's
when in doubt, lay
that's
out.
That's the old saying, right?
I was taught that a long time ago.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
I got no issue with doing it.
So, man, that's all great stuff. I mean, of course, there's more you can talk about as well, but really that's it. It's listening. It's being aware of everybody else. It's coming with some preparation ahead of time if you know you're going to get up and play, know some things. And but just as Larry Carlton says, just have big ears.
Right.
Be listening all the time. And as a soloist, you can't just get totally into yourself. You got to pay attention to what the band's doing and where they're going and what's happening behind you as well.
A lot of people listen to themselves a lot because they don't want to make a mistake.
Sure.
And I understand that, but a big mistake is not listening to only listening to yourself. And you know, once you start to open your ears and hear what everybody else is doing, they'll notice that too.
Right.
You know? Yeah, it's a big deal.
So we talked about etiquette, we talked about sort of the musical kind of things, but of course a big deal too with a blues jam is the gear that you're going to be faced with.
Right.
You know, I've been to some where you bring your guitar.
Right.
And I've been called up at blues jams where I didn't even have a guitar with me and, you know, get up on stage and play. What is your ideal situation as far as going to a blues jam with your gear?
Well, with my gear, it's just having an amp like we have behind us, like a clean platform, Fender kind of sound, which most of the time is provided, you know, that kind of thing. And I had an interesting situation where I had a modest pedal board with all the usual suspects I need, right? And I found but I only needed 2 pedals out of the 6 or 7 that were on the board. I used a boost and a drive, and that's all I used the whole night. And I might have used one of the other drives, but it was always just no more than 2 pedals. And of course, a tuner. So you should make sure you're in tune.
Where's the tuner? And,
Mitch is going to pull a rabbit out of his hat.
Yeah, the polytune. I never go anywhere without it.
There's so many of these great headstock tuners and stuff. Throw it in your bag. Make sure you're in tune before you jump up, because that's going to, you know, keep the whole show going, as opposed to you sitting there and making sure you're in tune. And everybody's like, all right, what are we going to tune? You know, and that's a big deal.
And actually, that's something we should have probably talked about. Is you know, usually you sign up on a list to come up and play, and you kind of know. And so it's a good idea to just step off to the side, tune your guitar up, maybe play a scale or 2 or whatever you do to warm up before you get on stage, so you're not totally cold and your instrument's not totally cold.
Right. And as far as the pedals, you know, as the jammers are getting up on my rig, I said, hey, that's your boost, that's your gain. And they're like, okay, great. Nobody had any troubles, and it worked out really well. And that led me to think, like, man, maybe you really only need a couple pedals to survive the blues jam. And then later on in the night, this gentleman got up, great guitar player. He had a little, like, nano board, and he had 2 drives on there. And he just plugged it in real quick to the other guy's stuff. He had it all figured out, didn't take extra time. And he was comfortable and sounded. They played some Santana, and he was tearing it up. It was great.
Yeah.
But we talked about pulling some usual suspects here. If we're going to use a drive and a boost, like, what do we do? What do we bring? Or what are some good choices? And thankfully, Sweetwater has a fair amount of pedals.
There's
and
a few pedals to choose among here, yeah. There's one thing we didn't actually talk about, I'm going to throw it out here, is that when I'm taking a pedal to a blues jam, a lot of times I'll defer to a battery-powered pedal.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So I don't have to look for an outlet to plug in. I mean, but usually there'll be some kind of AC outlet you can connect to, but for the sake of simplicity, I do like a battery-powered pedal.
Yeah, I mean, like in a Boss pedal would be a perfect example of that. You can pop a battery in there real quickly.
Make sure you have a fresh battery.
Exactly. Yeah, all that stuff, for sure.
But that can let you get into action quick, because what you don't want is 10 minutes while you plug things in and fix your wiring, and why isn't this pedal working?
And then the other members in the band are going like, oh, this guy and his gear,
Right.
Like that's part of the etiquette too.
Yeah, it is part of the etiquette.
Moving the show along, and not getting too hung up. But
you should bring what you want.
You should bring something that makes you comfortable if you have that opportunity.
Absolutely.
To do that.
Absolutely. So we grabbed a couple pedals here.
Yeah.
And let's start there. Start with ones that we just grabbed out of the pile.
Yeah, I was really interested. I like the mid-forward stuff, that has become so popular, because it really helps you punch through the band. It lifts that frequency. You can get out over top of it. And I wanted to play this J Rocket Audio HRM, which is like they call it hot rodded Marshall. That's what I don't work for anybody. I can say whatever I want. But it's that sort of like classic, lore of the Dumble type of thing, with plenty of gain on top. I'm barely using any gain, but the frequencies in it has a mid-range control, which is great. You can really sneak out over the band and still get some nice compression happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Or gain, not compression like a compressor pedal.
I love that pedal. It's so versatile. I mean, you can crank it up and get a lot of gain if that's the kind of player you are.
Yeah.
Like you're so articulate and you're so clean that a pedal like that really complements what you're doing.
And that's what I look for. I want something that I have to pull along. I want it to help me evolve my playing.
Yeah.
For sure. You're using the Duke of Tone, classic.
Yeah, the Duke of Tone. I mean, I have one.
Yeah.
And so I'm comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. But what I like about it is that it sounds like my guitar.
Right.
It's a very transparent, to my ears anyway. It adds its thing, but it's a pretty transparent drive. So no matter what amp I plug into, if I go from the clean, to the drive, it's the same thing, just more.
Boosted more. Yeah, I love that.
And I really like that about it. And again, I barely have the gain. Well, actually, I have more gain than you did, certainly. But, I like it to just have a nice sustain to it and a nice rich sound without, we're not doing metal. This is a blues jam.
Right.
And so I want to be faithful to the sound that the band is going after.
Exactly. And the Duke of Tone has options built onto overdrive, boost, and distortion. And man, that was I did a video on that pedal, and I was really into it.
Yeah,
we had a lot of fun. It sounded great with humbuckers and single coils too.
Absolutely.
But one of the things people ask about is, they always say, well, what about a clean boost, just to boost my amp? And they're always surprised at this choice that I'm gonna, pull from my rabbit out of my hat here.
There you go.
One of my favorite clean boosts ever is a Boss GE7, because you have a ton of headroom and gain on tap, and you have all this frequency band here that you can boost a little 800 and get that mid-range if you want. I've been in a situation where I had to make a backline rental amp sound better. That was it. So we're talking about a survival guide. This is like the first aid kit, and it gets super overlooked. They're inexpensive, and it'll drive your amp into overdrive if you want it.
Yep.
Really, really classic.
you never know what you're going to plug into when you show up and you get on. I mean, you'll arrive at the gig or whatever at the jam and you'll see, but you never know. Is that going to be a great amp? Is it going to be one that's been played to death? Is it speaker completely worn out?
Tubes are going.
Tubes are going.
You never know. It's
it
getting beat up all the time.
And having the GE7 or a equalizer pedal like that to use as a boost really lets you compensate and get yourself, because you got to get yourself to your comfort zone. That's what this is all about, right?
Totally.
You want to step on stage. You have your few songs you're going to play. You want to be comfortable so you can jump right in and start making music.
Yeah. Another pedal or circuit that is great for a clean boost or overdrive if you want it is the classic. You've seen these for many, many years now. Mm-hmm. The Klon style, they went right for it. They said, we're going to do it. It's so funny to me to now see a pedal this big when we're all used to these small pedals. But if you turn the gain all the way down on these, they work as a great clean boost.
Yep.
And if you want a little bit, it will bring some mid-range in too. So this is a great pedal from Warm Audio that really gives you that faithful circuit.
Yeah, and it has a switch on the back actually to thicken things up a little bit as well. So that one gives you even more tonal options.
Love
than a stock Klon would.
Now I want to pull one that you wouldn't expect, right?
Okay.
So I'm not a traditional tube screamer guy. I was in my early days of my playing. And then I started moving on to other drives as they became available, because pedals have evolved like crazy, right?
Sure.
So everybody loves Tube Screamer. Well, not everybody, but we know Tube Screamers. We know the sound. And when I tried the inexpensive Behringer, it's the TO800. There's so many 8s and so many T's in these pedals, I forget.
Right.
I was shocked at how good this sounded.
Yep.
Now, it is an inexpensive pedal. It's not as rugged as some of these other ones. But if you're just getting started, I mean, that's a solid choice.
Or you want something you can just throw in the gig bag and not worry too much about.
Exactly, because you can buy 5 of them and have them around.
Right.
But
And they sound good.
And they do sound good. It's a really, really interesting little pedal that is not very expensive. You know, I was blown away.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff out there that you can get to your finish line goal of your tone pretty easily. And I was like, let's pull some fun stuff that we're used to, or things that you guys might be into also.
Yeah, I try to go for things that have a sound that works with the sound I'm trying to get.
Yeah.
Because sometimes if you go for something that's too versatile or has too many options or multi this and all that, that's all fantastic stuff. I love it. But when you're on stage and the pressure's on, I need to plug this in and I need to start playing something where, you know, if I set this dial at 2 o'clock and this one's at 11 o'clock and this one's at 2 o'clock, I know what it's going to do.
And you may only have to make a minor adjustment depending on the amp that you're plugged into. And that's the thing, people always hit me up, why would you need that stuff if you can get a modeler or you can get a multi-effect device? These are the reasons we're talking about. Plug and play, show and go, you know, no muss, no fuss. You know, however many sayings I can come up with about it, you know?
We got all the cliches today.
We do, yeah, exactly. No, we're just having fun because we never get to do this.
I know, man.
This is
awesome.
awesome.
You know, this also goes with, I mean, it's one thing to go to a formal blues jam at a club or something like that, but just sitting down with a buddy and playing guitar, let's get together and play guitar or whatever. You still want to make it fun and make it effective, and you know, having this type of stuff that you just plug in and play like we did. We literally walked in here, plugged in, and turned the amps on, and
and that's the thing about this world of us talking on camera, is that it's never a perfect environment. Sweetwater is as close to perfect as you can get with all this amazing gear and everybody working the stuff behind the scenes. But it's still sit down and play, and you got to figure it out. And I never played that amp. I mean, that's your baby, you know. But I had to make stuff happen quickly. You didn't know we were going to play. And you lean on your musicianship and your etiquette and your, you know, your instincts.
And what you know, and you listen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just like Larry Carlton said.
Good stuff, man. Well, you learn from the best, right?
Exactly.
That's why I'm here with you.
Yeah. Well, I think we survived. Well, look at this guy. Checks in the mail, Mitch.
All right.
But I think we see the Blues Jam, our virtual Blues Jam here.
You know, I will say this too. There were some mistakes there. I made some notes I probably wouldn't play if I had my choice.
But it's all about bouncing back from that.
It's bouncing back from that and just incorporating it into the music and having fun with it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
This is a great combo,
This has been great.
Man. Let's take them out.
Yeah, man, I was going to say, let's play some more.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Kick it off.
All right, same thing?
Let's do it.
All right.
Thanks so much, Mitch. Always a pleasure.
So much fun.